So it's being recorded, so those who cannot attend can see it later.
How many do you have expected?
Well, I believe at least 30. We're going to be sitting in the lobby.
Oh, yeah, so, but they're sitting comfortably at home.
Right. And Han is our Zoom guru, and I thought he might be on to be able to tell us how many people are
As of
here.
right now, there are 40, including all the board members and the members with HD group.
Very good.
Mhm.
Hi, hon. How is everybody? Getting ready for holidays and
No time yet. Maybe tomorrow.
every year I have this situation where literally the eve of Christmas, I like, oh my God, I wake up. Even though I love, celebrating Christmas and doing all that, it's just this kind of, work until all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, we gotta.
And somehow the fall seems the busiest time of year. From October on, seems very busy.
And it rushes the next week.
Yeah.
Rush through.
Yeah.
Hey, Ovia, if I could ask, how many of your team are going to be on so we can know to look for them? We've got Brian so far, I believe.
You'll have Elizabeth, Kim, and Bryn. And is it Alexia? And no, Alexi's right by me. He's my technical backup. So 2 besides me.
Okay.
Alexi's sharing my screen.
Well,
So all the members of the architect group can share a screen at will, and also can unmute yourself at will. Everyone else in the the board member can also unmute themselves. The members community, if you need to talk during open sessions, just raise your hand and I will unmute you. I will flag you to unmute yourself.
and Han, before we get started, have you confirmed that everyone participating from the Colonnade is a resident of the Colonnade?
So far, yes.
Okay. All right. Well, it is 7 o'clock, so we will start this evening. And just a moment, now I'm going to switch so that I can see some of the participants. Here we go. Good evening. Tonight, we're taking an important next step to update and refresh the look of our very handsome building. Now that our quarters have been redecorated, we can turn our attention to the lobby and the first floor. After a very extensive search, the board retained Ovia Dimitriou, co-founder of Hapstack Dimitriou, to work with us. Ovia is an architect and an interior designer. The board felt that we needed expertise in both of these fields, and her firm, very fortunately for us, combines both of these talents. She's renovated many condos in the DC area, including our neighbor, the Foxhall. So beginning in June, Ovia and her team became very familiar with the entire first floor of our building. And some of you may have seen her with her camera, taking lots of pictures and exploring every nook and cranny. They also conducted a needs survey of our residents. The results were collected and analyzed and became the basis for a conceptual footprint. The footprint was refined after several discussions with the board, and now the footprint that's on display in the lobby is the 7th iteration. And Ovia is going to walk us through that concept tonight. Now, keep in mind that this footprint is a concept, it's a vision, and it's a starting point. With that in mind, I yield to Ovia.
Well, hi, everybody. First of all, it's wonderful to meet you, even though it's kind of digital presence. First of all, I just want to say that our whole team is very excited about working on this building. I've known the building forever. I'm a Washington resident forever. And it is probably, from my knowledge, the most wonderful lobby in the city in terms of scale. And it has always caught my eye, and the fact that they managed to add that added floor. So I've looked at the building as a building that actually did spend good money on not just getting apartments, but really elevating their design. So with that said, I'm going to share my screen and try to share with you what our purpose is today, which is, let's see. Okay, so today is not a design presentation. It's really a presentation, we call it, we've done the research and development. That's done. We've gotten to know the building and the residents and the program needs, and that'll still keep growing, but really it's, we're now into test fit planning, which means we are programming spaces. This is really what this exercise is about. So Susan described this perfectly. This was step by step, watching the building, measuring, photographing, visiting many times during the days and nights. And then looking at the plans. So you're looking at the program of the building and you're researching what the residents want of the building, what they need, what they're missing, what their desires are. And you're also looking at the building, what the building allows us to do. So understanding that there were a lot of problematic areas, we started juggling the space and really playing with space out, where the functions would lay out. And that's ultimately what this is today. It is totally just understanding how each space now relates to the other and how it can help improve the quality of life here. She mentioned the survey. The survey was extremely helpful to us. There were many opinions, of course, you know that, but really there was a lot of consensus about many things. There was talking about, should we flip the desk? Should we not flip the desk? Okay, most people said, let's leave the front desk where it is, but let's move the staff break room and give them more space. Let's establish a way to handle all the packages and the chaos and the storage better. Again, there was conversation about let's flip the fitness room and the party room and move the kitchen. And again, my sensible hat says, why are you throwing money down the tube just to flip spaces when they're equal spaces and shape? I'd rather spend the money on improvements that are more beneficial to you. So we've really tried to move spaces that we felt were critical and not just randomly because it felt good to do that. There was requests for creating a club room and a conference room, a conference library, kind of in a meeting room. There was talk about, we need to make the ADA bathrooms ADA compliant. You have restrooms now, a his and hers, that are obviously not very aesthetic, but besides that, they're not ADA compliant. And that's just, something that somebody visiting or attending a party needs to use a facility. It's a problem. It's not. And then the management office is the fact that staff is tucked in one corner of the building and then admin is in another, and they're just not, it's not enough control there. A lot of people asked to make the card room and party room more attractive. Do something better with that awkward east end space, that triangulated space. And we also got recent comments after the plans were put up in the lobby that not to make the card room too small. So we're going to hear you. We'll work on that. We'll make sure you have enough room. And that the walls are flexible. That's a very important thing. The gym, everybody talked about enlarging the gym, and there was a lot of requests for having a multi-use space, like a yoga, a Pilates, or maybe even just like a party room for your grandkids. Some of the comments, obviously you're probably very familiar by some of these, but there's no place cozy to mingle and socialize. We'd love to have a gas fireplace and a cozy couch. The current furniture is tired. It's not inviting. The gym needs updating. The fitness room, card room, party room are dark, stale, dated, and uninviting. Obviously, the fitness room needs expanding. While some are very fond of the French 18th century style, I find it fussy and silly given the 1960s building. I'll talk about that later. Entire lobby needs to be consistently classic, timeless, sophisticated, and elegant. We completely agree with you there. And we agree with many of these. The front desk, which is very small packages, you know, we have to deal with the package crisis. And the highly traditional decor is inconsistent with 1966. We had a few of those comments, stylistic comments. And then this is good. I think it should look upscale and aesthetically consistent from the entry to the building and from the outside. And that is our goal. So this is your existing plan, and we've color coded the areas by function. So purple are staff and admin. Gray are packages, you know, and bell carts. Orange are amenity spaces, social spaces, the old salon. Green is the fitness, and this area here is obviously empty. So just to give you a sense of some of the issues that have cropped up, and I'm sorry, it's very hard to get this whole floor plan on the screen. It may be a little soft, but I'll talk you through the spaces. Obviously, the vestibule has some issues, and we will be addressing those. The desk has issues, whether how present it is or visible and what it looks like and how it can manage. You know, the seating in the middle and how that holds the space for you. The fact that admin is here and it's not necessarily a bad size space, but it's not connected to the rest of admin, and the building engineer is on another floor. You have completely non-compliant bathrooms that are also extremely unattractive, sorry to say. The card room feels so interior, you could feel like you're in a basement. So those are things we really want to correct. We don't want you to feel like you're in a basement because you're not. Party room, and then this is your gym right now, and there are walls that have been solidified, probably because they put exercise equipment along there, but actually there's only columns near the edge wall. So, you know, we can open up the feeling of the gym, whether it's here or another spot. And then this is this unoccupied space. The kitchen, party room, essential. The minute you move the party room, you're spending a lot of money. So we kept this, and we are going to do aesthetic improvements to make this space better. So here's like a red line to show you some of the things we did. Like if we go back to reception and package, there was a wall here, we shifted to the right, and I can talk more in detail. Here we've opened up glazing, even if there's diffusion, but just it helps illuminate this dark corridor and helps make these rooms not feel like you're in a completely enclosed basement space. We really want to spend time focusing on what you see at the end of this dramatic lobby view. It cannot be a closet and a men's room door and a women's room door. It has to be better. So that is a journey that we're excited to jump into. And also what you see down this end, it really feels back of house. So I won't say much more, but you'll see little adjustments. We've made service corridor and delivery corridors wider. And the gym has shifted down. What was a gym here is now along here. So now you have the new plan. And again, so now we took the staff locker room and lounge, moved it over here. We took the admin, moved it over here. They're now much more controlled. Staff has 2 points of exit. And again, I have a close-up of this I can talk about in a while. But as you'll see, coming indoors straight on is the more, let's say, elegant approach. Pushing the desk out so it's more visible, controlling sight lines, creating a beautiful visual focal wall that's not flashy or current or trendy, but is a lovely focal element. Creating a library that has some glazing and meeting room, and a little social hub that actually helps kind of, it feeds off the lobby. It makes it more alive. And as you come in, you'll see we put in the notion of a fragmented rotunda. Rotundas are the best tool for bringing two angles together. Classical Italian technique, I don't know if it's the right solution, and we're excited to jump in and see if that's the case. But the point is, We're very concerned with what you see when you look down here, and we're very concerned with what you see down here. We want it to be nice. We also want to create a screen for the restroom area. So as you see, basically space allocations, admin moved here, locker rooms moved there. Now we expanded our social footprint, and then we captured all this space and created a good delivery zone. So your lobby space in terms of proportions, amazing. But you walk into this building and you have this mindset that it's actually a contemporary building and very period to the 60s. And all of a sudden you walk in, I'm like, there's confusion, design confusion. But there's so many great things here that we love. The terrazzo floor is spectacular and probably the most expensive floor you could think of putting in. The columns and the treatment of the columns, the marble, everything in this building is in the aesthetic of the exterior, just except for the wall treatments. And we'll just talk about that later. We also felt that the furniture just feels a little, well, formal, like fussy formal. It should be formal. This is our formal living room, but this is fussy formal and period to what period? Not to the building, not to Washington. And underscaled, it lacks the gravitas to hold the space down. We also find the elevator lobbies to be dark. So again, looking and exploring, and again, you've hired us to look at the master plan, to really see this as a whole cohesive series of spaces. And how they're implemented is TBD. But an elegant entry is straight in. You know, establishing a better reception node. Even if we don't move it, we don't need to move it, just making it come out forward, controlling the sideline. We're going to spend a lot of time on what you see here. Again, like I said, it's not any flashy or current. We've kept the seating pods as you have them, let's say. We've added lounge chairs, pairs of lounge chairs. You know, the daylight is so wonderful. That park is so beautiful. Let's get some seating right up against there, and a bench for the doorman to be sitting and waiting. In the vestibule, we would like to design millwork low that would accommodate key storage, even a little bench if they want to perch themselves, even though we prefer this in here. But we definitely believe that we can accommodate key storage better for the valets. And you can start taking a peek across here and seeing what's going on over there. But I'm going to really focus now here at your reception. So the reception, you know, obviously it has the COVID overlay. Omicron's arrived, we still have COVID. We're going to try to design something, a more elegant solution than having a temporary table. We want to bring the table forward into the space so it's more welcome. We want to control your sidelines. You should not be seeing any of this. And we want to take all this chaos and just put it back behind, out of sight. Like I said, we have storage that is easily accessible without even opening a door. And no doors, just grab and go, and some hangings, refrigerated, some extra security if they wanted that. And the idea that we avoid having all these delivery people coming through your lobby. Instead, they would come through here and have just a direct, you know, he buzzes them in. We maintain the staff bathroom for him, and the mailboxes will continue to be delivered from the rear. The other part of the admin, we moved across the way. Oh, sorry. This is kind of, we felt that in a way this gave management a little more control and oversight of general staff, but it gives the staff a really generous area for, you know, their lunchroom, tables, plenty of lockers, private changing room, which they don't even have now, and staff closet, and then their own bathroom, which obviously services admin as well. And the admin, the corridors, you know, these doors are the doors to the gym. So instead, we keep the doors and the glazing, and you enter into a nice little reception for the office, for admin, and they will be providing a copy fax, you know, counter for the residents. And this allows for 2 desk stations and the building engineer to finally join the whole gang, and a private general manager's office. And we've laid it out so that staff can, they're eating lunch, they're in a hurry, they gotta run back to their jobs, dash out this way, they can dash out this way. Now admin is kind of all in one room, as a linear thing. They'll be just organized to have their own kind of alcove, let's say. Again, back to the overall plan. We are now going to look at the social spaces. So first I'm going to zoom into the library and the meeting room, which, like I said, I don't want it to be at all feeling like it's this completely basement-like internal room. And we can glaze this, we can, we can put diffusion glazing or partial glazing, and create a room that is, you can close it off and it's quiet, and then you can darken it, you can have a presentation if you need to have a meeting. I mean, there's a lot of people now who are transitioning to home office. So you'd be able to, as a resident, have a little business meeting or maybe get together to do something else. But the library would benefit from this room most of the time, because that doesn't happen all the time. So you'd have a library, again, with a see-through fireplace, and we would explore the seating types here, so that single reader or maybe a couple of cloud chairs, but a lot of comfortable areas to sit and plenty of bookshelves. Your library now is not a dedicated space. It's part of the club room. You understand that. So it will have its own destination spot, which is nice. And then we want the card room to have its own destination spot. And next to the card room, we kind of split this room. Now, from comments we heard, this is tight. We're going to rework this, but we would like to give you your own club room, cozy living room, fireplace, TV, large screen monitor. We'd love to give you your own card room, but we also want to create flexibility in these spaces, that maybe these walls completely open up. This corner space, there are solid walls here normally, all closed, and there's a doorway. We see this as an excellent pre-function zone. It's a great place to kind of connect and then feed into the party room or into the other spaces, because say you were having a big social event and all of this is open, this is the hub that joins the spaces. So again, depending on what discoveries we have, and we really open up walls, there's always something, but we think we can open these areas up. And I talked about focal wall and screening of restrooms. I'm sorry. Okay, there we go. What we are proposing here is glazing this whole corner. It really energizes. Glass with any kind of diffusion film, like a soft sandblast film, is an amazing design tool, because it glows from both sides, and it makes the corner feel like it's getting a little bit of daylight. It makes the party room feel like it's not this totally interior room. Obviously, there would be considerations given to room darkening and it would be privacy in the diffusion, but room darkening is something to consider. And getting rid of the Rathskeller kind of bottle thing and just doing full height glazing. Again, really tall, not funny little horizontal windows, but tall, stately windows that help increase the sense of height. One of the problems with this room is that your focal point are the doors to the kitchen, and there's no kitchen on earth that's going to look good with the fluorescent lights and all that stainless steel. So one of the devices we recommend is we just put an opening here and an opening here, and then we create a big credenza with a huge, either a permanent large monitor or a roll down screen, whatever you want, but no doors. They just come in, controlled views, and the kitchen then is well screened. Let's see aesthetics. Now the shape of this room is fine. I mean, we all wish we could eliminate the columns. I trust that they're probably as tight as they can be. So there's nothing wrong with the bones of the room. Again, once we fix the glazing and open up the corner and get rid of this funny little traditional wainscoting and new carpet, new finishes, better lighting, and a different way to deal with the wear and tear of wainscot, which is a need in banquet rooms. These bathrooms we're proposing, there are other ways that we can create an ADA bathroom and leave some of the communal, the bigger bathrooms, but they are quite tortured spaces. They're not pleasant. They're giving 3 private bathrooms is a very elegant solution. Having an area with a console and a mirror or even a bench is a nice solution. Tucking it away so that you're not coming off, the main circulation. Like I said, it's nice. Obviously, all of that depends on many forces. And then this wonderful corridor. Well, first I'm going to start on the upper right. That is the focal point of your corridor east is abysmal, right? We don't want to see the men's room. We don't want to see the ladies' room. We don't want to feel like we're entering into a subgrade space. This is a continuation of our front of house space. So the rotunda or whatever other device, the lighting, we're going to look at how to transition from your terrazzo floor into a new floor. At Foxhall, we actually got medallions in the terrazzo floor, and we created a rotunda there because they have these angles. But there are things we can do with mosaic, with terrazzo, that actually can help extend that feeling of your very wonderful, expensive terrazzo, but not at the same expense of that very expensive terrazzo. So sorry. Naturally, again, we're going to be proposing ways to really make these corners, even the doggy exit, just more pleasant. So that's our concern. The bathrooms. So the gym now has shifted down, and it is about this much overlap with what it was. So now it's expanded, actually. It has expanded, and we are going to have this flexible wall here that this multi-use space that we created. Well, first of all, I just want to talk about the notion of going to the destination gym. Feels good. It feels like you're getting dressed, you're going out to the gym, you've reached this nice fitness center, there's glazing, all glazing into the gym. It's not some corridor, and it's just kind of a sense of place here. You can drop the ceiling, make nice lighting, dog door exterior goes out there. And the multi-use space is really, it could be yoga, Pilates, it could be a party room for your grandkids, it could be anything. Game night, extra game night. And we're going to look at these dividers maybe opening up or not, or whether it's glass. So that's all to be discovered. You see, your gym has a lot of personality in its wall covering color. So we will try to continue some of the ceiling gestures for continuity, because I believe we're actually going to be keeping the last portion of it. We're going to be opening up all these areas, but all this is not becoming admin. We're seeing on the upper right. So the gym will feel fresher, more current. And this is that space that obviously we're looking forward to making good use of. Which brings us back to the building and our next steps. The iconography of the colonnade, what is the colonnade style? So as we approach this next phase of design, we're going to be working with the renovation committee and the board liaison, and we're going to be developing 3-dimensional aspects of this project. We're going to explore look and feel imagery and comparable interiors, and we'll help us look at different style directions. This committee is going to help us narrow down the style directions. And from that, and our plans, which will be fine-tuned and developed, we're going to produce the schematic design vision. Many of you know, all of you may know, your architect, Donald H. Dreyer, actually produced many distinctive large-scale residential and commercial buildings in the region. But what I was interested in was that he actually got his architectural degree in 1931, which was literally in the middle of the modernist period. Coming out Bauhaus, modernist, it's an architectural style that's really based upon new and innovative technologies of construction, including glass, steel, and reinforced concrete. And the main thrust of the style is based on the idea that form follows function, an embrace of minimalism and a rejection of ornament. I say this because as we move into this next phase where now we need to do something that everything feels in sync, but we maintain that level of luxury. So these are some iconic images that we think are fabulous and really speak to the architecture of the building. That incredible terrazzo floor, which must be $200 a square foot. I envy that. I've never been able to afford that other project. The columns, they're stunning. You know, the sandwich of slabs, these thick slabs, and then this infill, it's beautifully detailed. I love the doors, you know, again, the screen by the mailboxes. These are, you know, modernist ways to create pattern and let's say ornament. But they're really stylized. The way look at how he paneled his ceiling in the porte cochere. So all these things are going to inform us. Even the chandelier is not pretending to be anything other than this big, cool, luminous object. So, and they are going to stay. I do know that there are many of you who love the ornamentation in this lobby. I just want to say that it is not in sync with the architecture of the building. But I know that we can, what you love about it is that sense of grounded history, proportion, panelizing, you know, this tall room. And I believe we can actually produce that in a more reduced architectural style. We want to maintain this level of elegance and formalism, but we don't, this is not Versailles. It is a 1968 or whatever building. And like I said, I think we're going to work together to try to achieve the elegance that you all love, but in a more kind of fresh, current, luminous, and reduced way. So with that, I'm going to jump out.
With that, thank you very much. And I'm sure there will be a lot of questions. So if you do have a question, please raise your hand and Han will recognize you and unmute you. So Han, I do see some hands that are raised, so you can take over, please. If Han is there.
Yeah, I'm working through the list. So as of right now, there are two raised hand. I'm trying to locate with it. We'll start with Barry Gadan. Go ahead and unmute yourself, Mr. Gadan.
Thank you. One question I have is anything you intend to do going to reduce the size of the lobby other than having a protrusion by the front desk?
Not at all.
And is anything you're planning to do involve a structural alteration to the building?
Absolutely not.
Thank you. Then when you show areas at the back sides of the lobby, I assume you are showing non-partitioned spaces that have a theme. And I think you've disappeared, but I'm still here. And you are not going to partition the lobby itself. Is that correct?
I'm not partitioning. The lobby space will remain, the integrity of the space, the shape, everything remains intact.
Okay. In making this plan, have you considered building security? One of the issues we have is when guests come in, the doorman might open either door. They do not necessarily and usually do not go past the front desk. There may be an issue with security where we want to know who's coming in, where we at least want to know where they're going. So when you think of the flow, and also think of the flow from the corridor where we have the staff room where we're putting the gym, to think of the issue of security as you're designing this, I think that's something important for you to think of. The other thing I wanted to mention is it seems you're putting excessive space in the administration area for the fax and whatever other machines they have, and rather minimizing the space of the people that are going to be using that area. And I would suggest that the space be reallocated. A fax machine is not that big. A copy machine is not that big. But having space, both for the person to be there and for the people they're interacting with, to not feel enclosed in a closet, you might think of reallocating that. And the controlled view of the kitchen, please think of people who are serving. If you have too many bends and turns, you'll have trays on the floor. You can have two doors coming in and a focal point where they come out, and that will hide the site. But if they're going like this and you have them sort of at angles, that's very modern, and whoops, there it goes. So those are my comments. I know there's a lot. Thank you.
Yes, and just in the interest of time, since there are many people who have questions, could you please limit your questions to maybe one topic? And then if we handle all the questions, we'll come back to you, and you can also submit them again in writing. So Han, who's up next?
All right, next we have Ms. Gomez from 609. Go ahead and mute yourself.
Okay, hi. Yes, so my question, I think you may have answered it already in Barry's question. So the space in the lobby when you come in, and I think on the plan it said storage. Did I read that correctly? That there's some storage that you can access in the lobby?
Wall. Is that behind the feature wall you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, that's an existing storage area.
Oh, it's an existing storage. Okay, you're not creating
It's
something.
a much needed storage area because they put all their Christmas decorations there and other stuff.
But it's accessed from behind the wall.
We're not changing that.
All right, thank you.
All right, next we have Ms. Kuiper from 615.
Hi, thank you, Han. Thank you so much, Olvia. Really appreciate your work on this and how beautiful it's starting to shape up. So thank you so much for your presentation. Quick question for you. If you could elaborate a little bit more on what you plan to do to the vestibule. I myself feel that it does need quite a bit of work. And so I'm just wondering if there are any significant changes planned for that area.
Susan, should I answer or are we going to hear questions?
Well, if you're speaking about the doors themselves or anything in addition to the doors. Well, so Olvia, I think you know that we've been talking about whether it should be an entryway that goes directly into the building or whether we are interested in maintaining the current configuration where you can enter on one side or the other. Decision hasn't been made. And if you want to elaborate.
I think you're right. There's a lot of issues with the vestibule. And when it's tackled, there are far more elegant ways to solve those problems. So.
Next, we have Mr. and Mrs. Gentry.
Thank you. So Ovia, while I appreciate your desire to make the architectural style of the building consistent with the, I guess, the architect who originally designed it, his idea, I feel very strong. I know that I am not the only person, that one of the reasons that the Colonnade is such a unique living experience is because of the traditional elegance of the lobby, specifically the things that you have described as, quote, fussy traditionalism. And I'm speaking specifically of the paneling. I feel very strongly, and I know that there are others who feel the same way, that we are not interested in having the paneling removed. I don't have a problem with updating the furniture to some degree. However, the reason that individuals moved to the Colonnade is because they like the traditional feel, okay? Now, while this may not be a feel that you feel particularly happy about, shall I say, I do not think that it is the place of the architect or the designer to impose his or her own design sensibilities on a community where many people have moved here because they like the traditional feel. So I feel very strongly about not removing the paneling.
I hear you. I just want to interject that, you know, when you bring someone in to look at a building like this, you know, you obviously, one doesn't want to have, you know, it's A and then you enter it's B. Normally you want things to be in sync. And I totally respect the fact that you love the decor and that's why you moved. So, but in terms of the building, what happened, I'll tell you what happened. I work with developers. They have an architect that's visionary, that designs a visionary building that's contemporary. And then they hire the sales company, these sales agents who come in and say, oh no, Washington's very traditional. We must have traditional trim. And they actually have a choice in who is hired as an interior designer. I've seen this because I've been on a number of projects that this has happened. And the sales agents actually have a big voice in what the interior looks like. So I know why the interior looks like this, because at that time in Washington was a very traditional leaning city. But generally what I have found, and in speaking with realtors, and I have been in forums with realtors, the trend is not in that direction. The trend generally is in a more contemporary direction. And like a building like the Colonnade may attract empty nesters, people who have big homes in the suburbs and everything. And again, there's this trend to move into town, lighter, leaner, cleaner. I'm not saying that there aren't a lot of people who adore this traditional look, okay? And this is something we need to address. But what I'm saying is that I know why it was done and it's completely incongruous with the building. And I'm not sure it's congruous with what the climate is altogether in these days. I've done work in the Shoreham West, and which is a highly traditional building. Many
I used to live in the Shoreham West. I know where the Shoreham West is. My
You know
parents
it
had a
well.
condominium there.
You
So
know it
I'm very familiar with it. I understand the traditional flavor of Washington, but I also understand that one of the reasons that the Colonnade is extremely attractive is because it doesn't look like every other building. People come in and they are very impressed with things such as the paneling. That paneling is very reminiscent of being in an embassy. That is part of what Washington, D.C. is about. I grew up in embassies, so I know what that traditional architectural feel is. I understand what you're saying about the trend in Washington, but I don't believe that it is necessary to mimic every other building in Washington, D.C. to be something that is still attractive to a broader audience. So I would feel very strongly, and I know other people do too, about ripping out that paneling. And
So
I think that
Lisa,
before
thank you.
anything like that, excuse me, Susan, I've not finished. Before anything like that happens, there needs to be some sort of consensus, and there needs to be an actual questionnaire that is responsive to that, not like the one that was done before.
So Lisa,
And I
thank
feel
you
very
for
strongly about that.
Thank you for your comments. And I know there are strong feelings about the paneling in lots of different directions. So who has the next question?
The next person is someone in the iPad labeled with a B, but I'm not sure who that is.
Hey, Han, it's Mary Mervan and Bill Helene at 1222.
Hi.
We just wanted to convey that we love what you've done. We're so excited about it. We have a different aesthetic than, and which is completely different. And it's totally fine. Not everyone agrees on the aesthetic. One of the reasons we hate the building is the lobby. I would love to have mid-century. I know that's not what the building will go for, but I thought the survey indicated just a consensus around transitional. So again, we just have a different aesthetic, and you have wonderful taste, so do we. My only small question, I just wanted to make a comment on that the last points that were made. We don't agree with them. We hated how this building looked actually on the inside, but we love the apartment. And now this is turning into a stunning place. And I have no doubt this project's going to make it even better. A small little question that it's so dreamy, the idea of having a club room with a fireplace. I love it. And it would be so great, just a small thing, if we could bring down our iPads and stream movies. We could invite friends to watch a movie and stream it on the TV through USB cord or an iPad. That's just a small little detail, but just love everything and just, we're so excited. Thank you.
As of right now, I don't see anyone else raising their
Oh, yes.
hand.
There are several hands. I see, maybe not in the right order, but Mary Naku for one. And Deborah Kraut has had her hand up for a long time also.
All
So
right,
either
let me give them all the abilities to unmute themselves, and we'll start with
one
Miss
at,
Nico.
one at a time, right?
Yeah, yep, with Miss Nico, go ahead. Unmute yourself if you can.
Yes, I'm done. Well, first of all, thank you for a very well-planned design. I appreciate that. I just have one comment about having the bathroom for the fitness room outside the enclosure of the fitness room. Right now it is inside and it works very well. You know, once we go back to having fobs, using fobs to go in and coming out, it's not going to be very practical. Also, it's nice to have the bathroom exclusively for people who use the fitness room as opposed to open to the corridor when anybody can use it. And there are plenty of other bathrooms on the ground level that can, you know, be used by others. So, and the other thing is, I hope that the doors, the entry doors to the building will be automatic, fob operated automatic, because even though we do have doormen, they are not always present at the door because they do a number of chores, including valet parking and delivering packages, et cetera, et cetera. And sometimes when you, in my case, most often when I need them, when I come with a heavy suitcase, et cetera, it would be very nice to be able to have an automatic door. You would use a fob, obviously, not open for anybody, but you can use, and I've seen people on wheelchair having a lot of trouble getting in through the doors as they are now. Thank you.
All right, next we have Mr. Alan Kraut.
I could, just a little one, and I can tell you that the reason I'm shorter is because I'm in a wheelchair. And the doorman can testify that we need to do something about automatic doors, because every morning and every afternoon, it's an exciting experience to see whether I'll get through that door or sever my fingers at the same time. We need to accommodate not only younger people, we need to accommodate in this building wheelchairs, walkers, rollators. It needs to be friendly to us without upsetting those people who don't need it at this stage in their lives. I'm not satisfied with what you've done with the packages. I think packages are going to be a part of it. And every day when I come in, I see the reason that we really need to rethink it. We also need to rethink charging stations for our cell phones. We need to rethink what we do with ceiling lights to perhaps use them for disinfectant in our elevators and in our common areas of the mailroom where they would easily be able to disinfect. We have an issue with airflow. And the last thing, I have to tuck it in, it's just as a footnote concerning paneling. We are one of the layouts inside that has the original paneling that matches what we have down in the main area. So paneling was a thought inside the apartments as well as the main area. Anyway, back to the thing most important. I don't know where you put in the packages. I still haven't figured it out. And we need something that's secure and safe and not unsightly. And that's not satisfied yet. We're not there yet.
Well, Ovia, you might want to touch on that because
Yeah. We've actually expanded the package storage substantially, and it's out of sight and it's easily accessible and it's easier to deliver. So actually, I think your package problem is solved by this plan. But maybe if you have a chance to zoom in on that area, you'll see that what you see you don't see messy packages. It's easy for the concierge to run around the corner and grab a package. Package storage is much easier for the staff to store and grab and to receive. So I believe we've solved a lot of the
I
problems.
don't think you've seen the size of the packages that are coming in and will be coming in the future. I understand the small packages. Every day we pay Tom Bradley and Gronkowski when he throws it across to me in my wheelchair. It's really exciting. I don't see that changing, but the large packages are not being solved.
Well,
It
you
hasn't done it yet.
You
It
will have a
needs
direct
work.
access into a room that was their lunchroom. It's a lunchroom. That now is a big room that can receive large packages. I completely feel it for you. The whole package thing is insane. People are
And it
getting
doesn't
rubber
sell the
for it.
building.
Yes,
Deborah,
all of that's going to be out of sight because it'll be coming in another door. And there's a big room for big unsightly packages. So none of the packages should be anywhere near the front desk.
and Deborah, I would be very happy to meet you in the lobby tomorrow morning and show you on the diagram where the packages would be.
I would be happy to meet with you, but every morning I go down and have hyperbaric therapy. So I have a chance to look at what our door situation is like every day. But I will contact you and we'll look at it together and we'll see
Very
how
good.
accessible it is.
All right, thank you. Han, who's next?
Miss Gustowski is next. If she can unmute herself. Super. All right. That's why I muted you. Go ahead, unmute yourself again.
Okay, Debbie Gostowski in 1210. I have a question about what's happening to Albert's. I know he has quite a few customers in this building. And I think that's an important amenity for what we pay. I didn't see anything about Albert's.
Well, I can answer that because we were told more than a year ago by Albert that he did not wish to renew his lease. And he told us that January of last year. So assuming that he did not want to, we said fine. And then we knew that we would have that space available as a salon until the renovation used that part of the corridor. So we approached him and said, asked if he would like to stay until the space was going to be renovated. And at that point, he said yes. He has not expressed any desire to management to stay on. So in the last few days, we've heard that there are several people who are concerned that he's leaving and concerned that we're not going to have a salon. So frankly, I haven't heard from him. I don't think Chris has officially heard from him. So we don't really know what Albert wants to do.
Doesn't matter. They should have a salon here whether Albert's here or not.
It doesn't matter.
Well,
We should have a salon here whether he's here or not.
Sorry, Mr. David Aaron is next on the list to make his comment.
Well, thank you for explaining. Thank you for your explanation, but that certainly is not what Albert is saying now. And there's a lot
know
of
it's
elderly
not.
people
That's what I'm
here who
hearing.
really need. There are a lot of elderly people here who really need a place that they can get to easily. We just had somebody talk about walkers and rollators and so forth, and going out for getting their hair done is very hard. I just don't understand. I mean, when we first moved in here, we heard that the building was trying to get rid of him. That's what we heard. Well, I don't know if there's any truth in that, but I can tell you that it would really affect the value of our property here to not have that facility, and whether he runs it or not. So I don't understand why all this extra room and so forth, and and nobody is being consulted about this except now indirectly by showing us this plan. Why don't you send out a thing that says how many people here would like to have a hairdresser here or not, and then you can discuss it with him or not. Or somebody else.
I just want to say that I'm happy to design anything. The program is really up to you.
I just want to say, can you hear me?
Yes.
I mean, couldn't agree more about finding a place for Albert, who is a wonderful hairdresser. But I would also point out too that before the pandemic, when people were, more active, and he was very busy. Even now he's quite busy. But when you look at the allocation under the new plan, there's greatly increased space for functions and areas that are empty most of the time now. You've got to face up to the fact that the lobby is not much used. Now, I think it's a beautiful lobby, and I think the plan is good. But to eliminate Albert is just stupid. I mean, we're already we penalize them by not letting them have a little sign out there. Where some of the other buildings, they all have advertisements essentially for their functions. And we have, we no longer have a market. We do have a lot of rooms that are empty all the time. So that's my thought.
Next, we have Ms. Bruger. Go ahead, unmute yourself, please, Ms. Bruger.
Okay, you got both of us. I'll let Lynn go first. Go ahead.
I'd like to speak, number one, on the priorities which were given to the architect. I read, as a user of the gym, that they wanted extra space for private sessions with exercise helpers. They wanted extra space for Pilates. All these are understandable, but I see that Pilates are a once a week affair in another room where they've gone for many years. I see the gym.
Woman who was the
They have time for what it was before. I think that when I'm in the gym, which is 3 times a week, I find an average a total of 2 people.
Yes.
It is rare that a fourth person comes in and needs a fourth treadmill. It just rarely ever happens.
Now, Len has muted himself, so we can't hear what he's saying.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Could you hear anything about what I said?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Now, I think Albert, the hairdresser, is a big plus for the building. This is a $200 million building. One of the reasons it maintains its value, one of many, is the amenities that are provided. The front desk is an amenity that I'll even call the front lobby is an amenity. Having a hairdresser is definitely an amenity, particularly in this day and age. Albert went bonkers in the last few years. Nice fellow, had a lot of family trouble with family getting killed in Beirut and so forth. And Albert became angry and didn't keep his people quite so well. He's a fine man. Moving onward, we should have, by knowing that he was leaving a year ahead, had a business broker. They're cheap. They're all over the place, and they would find someone. There's another hairdresser, maybe a half a mile to a mile away, a shop with 4 people. They're all licensed. They've already paid for their licenses. They've already paid for their insurance. One of those people, I'm sure, would be delighted to come over and bring part of their firm here, pick up our business, add their business, and so forth. And they have lesser expenses and they have a great deal of knowledge. We have not done what we should do in terms of our looking forward. We don't have to depend upon the hairdresser who's here for being here another 10 or 20 years. If we have a space amenity, we should go and see you. I'm done.
Right. Len, I think we get the point. So I think there are lots of people who support having a hairdresser at the time. So I think we need to rethink that. So we hear it, and I know there were at least seven comments from people who submitted written comments. So we get it. And maybe if there are other comments on other topics, we want to hear those in addition to the hair salon topics, which we clearly understand.
Can I change subjects a minute? We got dual people here. Wonderful presentation, terrific. I'm just in awe of architectural vision. It's just terrific. You all see things so much differently than us. On space, and to the lady's point about deliveries and packages, on the very back end of where that new Pilates area is supposed to be, you have a delivery space. Is that for large items such as large carpets and washers and dryers and refrigerators and things like that that come in here?
Well, I could answer that, but I think Chris and management should answer. But my
Yeah, I
thing
can answer.
that is a loading dock for people moving in, I believe, or construction, right?
No,
that is a loading dock there. So that's a space we could still continue to utilize for deliveries coming through that area.
Deliveries for condo. I mean, we have a loading dock, right? We do have.
We do, but that's nice to have an alternative in case the loading dock is occupied or if there are items coming in for the building itself.
But you're right, differentiating about how big is the package going to be delivered to the.
Right. I mean, we're seeing full cabinets, we're seeing refrigerator, we're seeing 12-foot long rugs coming in. And to the lady's point, it's a mess, and it would take up the whole new storage space you're suggesting, which is that's a choke point, of course, and it probably has to be reworked a couple times. But that, I was just looking at that space and thinking, what was that designated for? We can't. And also my tiny little question was, there's a big space behind that corridor, 152 corridor that leans right next to the elevators on the right. That used to be a little office for somebody. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's behind the elevator bank.
That is a small office and storage area.
So that will be utilized for storage, and for you guys, right? For the office.
Exactly. Exactly.
Because so that's not capable of a beauty shop because there's no windows, right? I mean, it could be.
It's a small space.
Yeah. Okay.
I just want to throw in that you all in your vote are going to determine whether you need a beauty shop. I mean, you can judge by my hair. I need to go to a beauty shop badly, but I don't have time. But the plan has space for a beauty shop in its footprint. So don't anybody freak out. I think you all need to put it to a vote.
Good. That's good.
You're open. So
Yeah.
It really, we just split the admin and the gym a little bit, and we got our beauty shop right back in the spot. So.
Are there any other questions?
At the moment, I don't see anyone else raising their hand, and I'm trying to. Miss Niku, look like she's raising her hand. Go ahead, unmute yourself.
As long as there is room, there's time. Let me ask you this question, which has puzzled me. Why do we have two separate corridors from the service door to the what we call now commercial corridor? Why are there two separate corridors? I couldn't quite understand that.
Are you talking about the corridors down where the dog walkers come in and the one next to it?
Yes.
Okay. Some of this has to do with fire exiting, and we have to maintain fire exit passages intact. So we have to be very careful what we open up. We would have loved to have removed that wall and created a larger space. So that can be looked at in more detail later, but generally we've maintained the egress corridor, and the other corridor is a dedicated delivery corridor. If we can combine spaces with further kind of analysis, we would love to. I mean, we do not want to waste space on corridors duplicating, but right now, one is an exit passage and one is a delivery corridor. So
okay, and can I just add one other point about the paneling. There are ways of modernizing the paneling by simply coloring it a different color. I mean, this happens in Europe, it's done in Europe all the time. Of course, those are panels in historic buildings, so they are suitable to those buildings, but because they use modern furniture in them, they paint them a different color. They do white mostly, and it modernizes it completely. So it's both paneling and it's modern.
Well, I think it's a point well made. And part of the point is that they were original. First of all, I just want to assure everybody, we're not going to make some zooty, crazy, modern lobby design. Whatever we do will be transitional. It will have the bones and elegance and formalism traditional, but it's just a few less lines, a few less curly cues. Reduction of there was a picture I had that showed the paneling of the porte cochere. Paneling is an elegant way to articulate tall social public spaces. We don't need all the curly cues. If our paneling is elegant and proportioned and well lit, it actually can give you the feel and the elegance. And again, it has to be grounded in history. You know, it's balanced, it's proportioned. You know, there's wainscot, there's the upper piece. So I don't intend to make this crazy modern interior. It's not appropriate. This is a building with multi-generations, and it's Washington, and a transitional, something soft traditionalism. It's both sympathetic to, I mean, at Foxhall, if any of you have visited, this was a Moretti disciple, the guy who designed Watergate. It was a building, it was a contemporary building, very contemporary with swooping forms, but you would come into the lobby and there was little crystal chandeliers and little traditional doodads and crown moldings that were completely out of character. So we took all that away, but you'll see it feels and has a sense of classicism. And we played on the curves of the building. We created custom crown moldings that were actually larger scale and therefore calmer, simpler. So the overall impression is one of traditionalism, but just calm down a little bit, that's all. I want you to come to this lobby. I want you to feel like the luminous exuberance and elegance, quiet elegance. That is the solution that will last a long time. So I just want to reassure the traditionalists that we're not going the other extreme, you know, and the modernists, the mid-century. We can't go. We have to be somewhere balanced. We have to make everyone feel comfortable. So.
Next, we have Mr. Gadan.
Yes, hi. I don't think enough attention has been paid to the gymnasium. In any modern, desirable luxury building, even sub-luxury building, the gymnasium today is a major amenity that's a necessity. And I think we have to look at it. Right now, our gymnasium, though adequate for my uses, is rather poor, both in appearance and equipment. We need someone who knows how to set up a gymnasium, both space-wise and equipment-wise. So anyone who looks at that gymnasium, and we're getting younger people looking at the building, and older people in the building are becoming more physically fit. And that gym is critically important to us. So I think we need someone who has a good professional eye in the field of setting up gymnasiums, and let's give it attention.
Point well made.
Next, we have
consultants who specialize.
Need to get Scott Hall on that.
Who is next?
It's the iPad. I think that's Miss Helene.
Yeah, just a quick thought on the front door. It occurred to us that perhaps consideration has to be made. I know the woman, I forgot your name, with the wheelchair. That was a great point. But I think also just being able to move the carts. So maybe speak with the valets about the proposal with the front entrance with 2 doors opening would make it a lot easier, I think, to move carts around. And also the unfortunate times when we have an ambulance come with a stretcher for health and safety. So I like the idea of just one door that opens and it's just going to be easier to navigate. So those are just a few considerations. Thank you.
Next we have Mrs. Gentry. If you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, I did. Thank you. Just one more response to Ovia's last comment about removing the paneling and then paying for custom crown molding when we have custom crown molding already. I think that would be an unnecessary expense. I am very familiar with Foxhall and what they've done there. I think that the suggestion of possibly modernizing by changing the color and having modern furniture or more modern furniture is fine. However, I would again say that it is an unnecessary expense to remove something that is a part of the DNA of this building and then to replace it with something else just because you have decided that you think that it is not consistent with the architecture of the building. I would greatly disagree with that.
Okay, my answer to that is I read survey results and there's a lot of residents who don't agree with the lobby. So,
but there are a lot of residents who
taking
do.
Instructions from you. I'm also a professional that you've hired who is doing a lot of condominiums, and I'm just going to tell you what I see and have learned from the market. There is a general trend to a more transitional design. I mentioned,
and that's fine, but that doesn't mean that you rip off something that is part of the structural DNA and the design DNA of the building. I have no problem with modernizing the furniture and modernizing the look, but something that is an integral part of this building should not be destroyed. This is not a museum. This is a living space. It is a home.
Very formal.
Lisa, may I just comment that Olivia, it was not hired and to give her own opinions and preferences for what our building should look like. We've hired her to work with us to come up with what we want. She hasn't been imposing her plans on us. She's been listening to us. And as I said at the outset, we're a long way from being finished. We have a lot of ideas to hear, but it is not obvious working with us. She's not imposing anything on us at all. So I don't think that we should assume that she's doing that, because she simply is not.
Well, I would hope that you're correct, but from the tenor of her comments, I would have to say that that was my interpretation.
Well, I'm an architect, I speak to the building, and that's the best I can do. Research and development, get to know the property you're dealing with, look at the history, and that is, I'm just due diligence, okay? So.
I have no problem with that. I'm an attorney, I'm used to due diligence.
Is there another question? I see Paula Goldman has her hand up. So, Han, it looks like there are a couple of hands up.
Yeah, okay, I'm unmuted now. I think you can hear me. I just want you to know that the paneling was not original to this building. When this building was first built, there were stained glass panels in the back of the lobby. That goes back a long way before I lived here. So let's not assume that that was original to the building. There could be other choices that we make. Thank you.
And I see another hand up. I think Donna Christensen has her hand up.
I'd like to actually ask Olvia, commenting on Mary Niku's comment about changing the color, possibly removing the curlicues, does that satisfy your view of what would move it in a direction that would be more compatible?
You know, that's just cheap molding, by the way. You can buy it from Smooth Lumber. I'm not gonna say it's fantastically ornate, shipped from France molding.
No, it's
I can show you the catalog. I mean, it's like, you know, so as an architect, I really feel like I owe it to the community to just, you know, say I'd prefer us to recreate this elegance in a more appropriate style. Of course, I'll do whatever you tell me. I mean, like, yeah, you want to paint it and everybody loves the molding, we'll paint it.
Yeah, that's right.
There are beautiful palazzos in Europe that have painted their old, ornate moldings white, and they put this modern finish. It's amazing. It's beautiful. I agree. I'm here to take direction from you. I want to deliver the best vision possible. I want to deliver something that will last, that will be timeless, which means what? 25 years from now, we're going to be looking at improvements again. So
Well, I appreciate that, but I was really just trying to clarify because I think there seems to be a lot of controversy on this particular topic as to whether leaving the paneling up, changing the molding in some way is more what you have in mind as a possibility. And then I have a quick question about the front desk.
I would love to show you what our idea is in place of this paneling, because I feel very passionate that it is going to be a lovely idea. And then if you decide to just paint what's existing, that's easy.
Sure.
You don't need to define, you pick the paint, but that is a fallback we have, right? We have that. But I really would like the chance to show you.
Sure, of course.
Great. A quick question about the front. There seems to be a lot of concern, and I share it. Two things. One is if people come in the front door and that has been set up as a double front door, automated opening, and it directs people directly into the lobby, how do we get them over to any kind of security at the front desk and for checking in? So that's one part. And the other is, has the staff been involved in terms of whether the packaging being back where it will be, and you've screened everything off and it's beautiful and visible, and the staff is running back and forth, hauling those packages out to the front to be delivered to people? I'm not quite sure how all that's going to work.
First of all, the staff is critically important, and if Elizabeth's still on, she has a couple young kids. I think she met in the staff to talk about it. So obviously it's of concern. When we go into our next phase and we're like the floor plans at this very big global scale, right? So staff has to sign off on the function, there's no question. But they have had a look at it.
Sure.
And I think Elizabeth did meet with them, so.
They don't know.
It looks like Barbara Kern has had her hand up for a while.
Ms. Brugger is first. She's been holding for a long time now.
Okay.
Am I unmuted?
Yes.
I have a question. Do you have much experience with the airlock system of the doors? In other words, I like the fact that we talked about security a little while ago. I'm really concerned about the security in the building. So how does that work? How have you orchestrated a double airlock system and have it secure after hours?
Usually the the exterior doors are open and the interior doors are locked. So you're able to come in and access some mechanism, key panel, fob, and you can go in. That's often what's done in buildings. But obviously that's a much more detailed, that's not even a schematic design issue other than planning. That's a design development. It has to do mechanism. We need to meet with the companies that make these things.
Yeah.
Technology. I totally agree. It's a pain to have packages you're in and out and you're carrying. You just want to have the doors automatic. So I think that's something, whether it's an easy fob and it opens, or whether the doorman can see you. And
well, I mean, if the doormen are off at 11 o'clock and your plane doesn't get into 1 in the morning, you want to be safe and get into the airlock and try to get into the building. So I was just wondering if you've had experience with that.
If you're worried about security, that having the outer doors lock, that's something we can discuss with management.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Ms. Kern is next. Go ahead.
Thank you. So actually the front doors are the things that I wanted to talk about. It's a very elegant design right now where you go through that. It's beautiful. However, it's not secure, and it's not secure in any way whatsoever at any time of the day. Because if you walk in there with a fob or with a doorman and you go straight in, there is nothing to prevent anyone from going to the right and not going to the front desk. And that's it. And that is not secure. And I am concerned because I have had issues with that.
She's right.
I think that's a point to take into consideration, and we're going to.
It's more than consideration. It's an absolute security issue. And I feel so strongly about it. I wasn't going to say anything because I'm a board member and I've already discussed this with the board, but I have to discuss it now because it's come up so much. And it's really important.
I mean,
It's
there's
beautiful
a
design, but it's
benefit
not
to the
secure.
directional, that you're entering.
There is
We
no
want to avoid
way.
having ropes and things. We want to make it clear how people come in. Whether you guys decide to, we actually did a scheme that expanded it, but turned you back left. So we can look at both. I mean, I think that, again, that's going to be one of those
I
items.
think we have to have something that's secure and not beautiful. Or beautiful and secure, but secure first.
Yeah.
Mr. Ken Worthy is next.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, I really do appreciate the complexity of all this. And Olivia, thank you for your presentation. Susan, the board, the committee is working on this. You have my utmost respect. We're not going to do this by referendum, but we will get through it. I just want to speak to the front door situation. I've been in New York for 10 years and Washington for 30, and a lot of doorman buildings. It's the most awkward entry I have ever experienced in any building. Most of the time, if I have packages in my arms, the doorman sort of reach in and push the door open. I have to kind of shimmy around them to get into the building. That center door idea will work if you deploy the staff, that there's someone right there always inside during business hours, so to speak, who points you to the right or the left and who recognizes if somebody is a visitor or a resident. So we can get rid of that tacky theater rope, and we can have a doorman there who points you to the right or the left. You don't have to have a right and left door. You come in and go right or left, but there's always someone there. And off hours, you have a fob, and they'll have to be then flagged down by the front desk. That's just one small point in this whole constellation of issues. And I have no doubt, and I really do trust this board and this committee, that this is going to be a real good and desired upgrade for the Colonnade. Thank you.
Well, I see. Shall we take this as the last question? I see Deborah Kraut has her hand up.
Go ahead and mute yourself.
Okay. 3 words came out of this, and it's really a good meeting. Okay. It's a good meeting because we came out with 3 needs: safety, style, security. That's what we're dealing with. And that's, as clients, I think you should be ecstatic. Look at how articulate we were. Look at how we made ourselves known to you. I'd be worried if we just sat around and said, oh, yeah, that's really nice, because then you'd have problems down the line. Here, we really have defined what's working and what isn't working and what we like. So I know it's not quite a question. It's more like, I'm ecstatic. This is the best possible beginning on this. Hooray. Okay. Good for us. Good for you.
Well, on that note, I think that is the final word. Thank you. That was
Well,
very
I think
good.
we also have Miss Diana Hart, who's
Oh, I'm
on and off,
sorry.
raising her
Yeah.
hand. Yes.
Okay.
If you can unmute yourself, Miss Hart.
Yes, it's Diana Hart from apartment 721. Olivia, thank you so much. It's just been fantastic to see the elegant solutions that you have created for our first floor. I want to just make a point that goes in the direction of security with regard to the front desk, as well as with regard to the package delivery. I'm a little concerned about the packages being delivered through that side entrance off of the driveway and how they would be checked in, who would check them in, how they would end up in the storage room of packages. And I'm concerned that that room would become, in fact, a storage room for packages. And then my second hope is that currently whomever is behind the front desk is now unable to see visually see who is attempting to enter the building, either through the vestibule to the left or to the right, because there is no direct line of sight currently from the front desk. Unless a person is standing up at the front desk. There's a chair, there's the desk, but when that person is seated, they have no ability to see what's going on out there, either in the lobby or at the front desk. But I just want to recommend that some attention be paid to those needs. Thank you again very much for everything you're doing. I'm grateful.
If I may just throw hi Dana, throw an answer there, is that any new vestibule I would make would be almost like frameless glass, very, very transparent, because we really want the architecture of the space to dominate and not a box. So they would have complete visibility through the glass. So if that answers your question there.
Well, I just would tag on, I'm not clear on where that glass will be, but that remains to be seen.
So, Olivia, I just want to say thank you very, very much for the thoughtful, excellent presentation that generated a lot of comments, which is exactly what we need and want, because we do want feedback. And as I said, the salon issue was not an issue 2 weeks ago. Now it's an issue and we've heard it. So there are other things like that that have come out of the discussion tonight, and we really appreciate it. I thought Deborah had a very fine closing comment, but I also just wanted to end with a note from 3 of our residents. One of them said the plan is sensible and sane. Another said it shows intelligent use of spaces. And a third said, I congratulate the designers for a thoughtful and much improved lobby layout. So with that, thank you very much. Thank everyone for participating, and good evening.
Good evening.
Good night.
Yep.
Good night.
Night, everybody.